Alright, hey guys, so welcome to lesson 2 of your Korean school. And today we're gonna learn what I call simple consonants, which includes the bulk of the consonants in the Korean language. So let's get started. It will be so the first consonant that I'm going to talk about. Oops. Yeah, so the first consonant that I'm going to talk about is the letter called 기역. And this letter has a g or a k sound, or a g or a k sound depending on the word. And this kind of sucks because you kind of have to know like when the 기억 is pronounced g or k, because Korean doesn't have separate letters for the g and k sound. But just know it could be uh it could have a g sound or a k sound depending on the word. And so for the next letter, I mean the consonant, we have the consonant called niun. And this has a nun sound, or the sound of an N. And like the N sound and like the nun sound in name. Pretty straightforward letter, nothing complicated. As I mean, most of these are, but they're pretty straightforward. So the next letter that I want to talk about is called the Tigut. So this letter has the D or a T sound, depending on the word. And again, Korean doesn't have different letters for the D and T sound, and you have to know when it has a D sound or a T sound, depending on the word. And the D is, and the T can be pronounced like the D sound, D in dog, in English word dog, or T in the English word time. So it's not complicated. It's not complicated, except that you have to know when the T has a D sound or a T sound. And the next letter is what I call the liur. So this letter has a l or a r sound depending on the word. So the sound of an L or an R roughly. And the L, and again, Korean doesn't have different letters for the l sound and the r sound. And the l sound can be pronounced as the L sound in love, the l, and the R sound in road or r. Again, you just have to know. You just have to figure out like when the letter is pronounced l or r. Now the next letter is much more simpler. So the letter is called mium, and this has a sound, or the sound of an m, like the in moon. So sorry about that. So the piup. So the next letter I'm going to talk about is the piup. So this usually has a b or a p sound depending on the word. But luckily for you guys, it rarely has the sound p. It is usually a b sound, b. So, but remember, it can have a b or a p sound, like the b sound in boy. And Korean, and also Korean doesn't have separate letters for the sound b and p. So you just have to figure it out, like when it has a b or a p sound. And the next letter that I'd like to talk about is a letter called shiut. And this has a S sound like the S sound in sky. So s. I mean, and that's pretty much all for this one. And here's a very special letter in the Korean alphabet. It's a letter called iung, and it is very unique in the case that if it's all by itself, it's silent, which means it has no sound. Imagine that, a consonant that doesn't have sound. However, however, it is often used to start a syllable, and it takes on the sound of the vowel if it's if the syllable starts with the vowel. So 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 you see the yung is silent, but you can see the long a vowel. So it takes on the sound It takes on the sound of the vowel, so it's and the same thing for e. So yung silent, but e but the vowel e has a short I sound, e, or just the E sound. But as you see, the yung doesn't have a sound, and it just takes on the sound of the vowel. So, however, and you have to learn this right now, but if it ends as a pachim, like ang, like you see that yung at the bottom of ah, and if it ends in a pachim, it gives off a nung sound, like the nung sound in mango. So, so this is probably the most complicated consonant, but it's really easy. It's really easy to just memorize and get used to it. So the next letter is called J, and this letter has a J sound or a J sound, like the J sound in juice. However, in contrary to popular belief, this doesn't have a Z sound, but it only has a J, the sound of a English letter J. So J. And the next letter is called Ch, and this has a Ch sound, like the Ch sound in chair. So Ch, cheese, chair, chamber, and so on. So Ch. And the next letter is called Kyuk, and this has a K sound like the K in keys, or let's see, kettle. But this generally has a sound of a K or K. And the next letter is called a Tigut, and this has a T sound or a sound of a T, like the T sound in T or T sound in team, and so on. But remember, it just has a T sound. And this letter is called the Pu, and this has a P sound. Now remember what I said earlier about uh the pube sometimes having a P sound. Well, this is usually the consonant or the letter that's used to represent the P sound, like the P sound in pen. So remember that. I know it gets a bit confusing, but and here is a letter called Hyut, and the Hyut has a H sound or a sound of an H, like the H sound in hat. So today wasn't a very hard lesson, and we just go over the major consonants. All you have to do is just memorize how they look and memorize their sounds, and we get to form consonants in the next few lessons. So let's do the review. So the Kyuk has a G or a K sound, and the Nian has a N sound or N. The Tigut has a D or a T sound, so D or T. The Leer has a L or a R sound, so L or R. The Mium has an M sound, so like in moon. And the Piup usually almost always has a B sound, and it rarely has the P sound. And the Shiut has an S sound or S, and the Yung is usually silent, but since it comes after a vowel, before a vowel, it takes on the sound of the vowel. Or if it ends in pachim, it makes a nung sound. The Chut has a j sound or sound of a J. The Chut has a ch sound like the ch in English. And the Kyuk has a k sound or like the letter K. And the T has a T makes a T sound like the T, like so T in English. And the Pup is usually used to represent the P sound, and rarely, and as you've seen earlier, the Pup rarely makes a P sound. So the Pup is usually the consonant that is used to make the P sound, so P. And finally, the Hyut has a H sound, like the English H. So if you want to go through every single slide and study the letters like that, then feel free to do so. Or if you're just lazy and if you just want a table with all the sounds on, you just use this final slide, or just pause on the final slide so you can memorize it. But the consonant should be pretty straightforward when it comes to pronunciation and memorization and reading. So make sure you memorize the vowels, and the consonants here, so you guys can actually uh write actual words in the next couple of lessons. So have a nice day.